And yes, I'm excited. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night, wherever you are, Europe, the US, the Americas. I'm excited to restart our podcast. It's been a blast this past years. It's almost been a year since last March, since the pandemic. And I'm excited about my new guest, Alice Whieldon. Thank you for joining us this week.
My
And
pleasure.
on Facebook Live, if you can please, to help with awareness, just write some comments, some emojis, where you're from, which country you're from, that'll be great. So again, thank you, Alice, for joining us. How you been?
I'm very well, thank you. It's really, really great to be here and see already some old friends. It's lovely.
Fantastic. So maybe we can begin. I know some people have done your work, known about you, but there's still a lot that haven't. And maybe we can start with, I know you're quite humble, but if you can tell a little bit about your journey and how it began. You did mention to me privately that you became a shiatsu therapist at the age of 24. So that was
That's
quite a while ago, quite young for someone to become a therapist. So
yeah.
yeah, share some of your journey with us.
Well, yeah. That was when I started training at 24. So I came across shiatsu in 1985 because my father had a conference center in the south of England, and he'd been to Esalen, he'd been to California in the 70s, and he came back really fired up and he wanted to start a center like Esalen in the UK.
Yes.
But without the surf, without the nice bit, well, some of the nice bits.
Esalen is in California. It's a world famous center. Yeah.
Yeah. And so he started this. It was a great center and we had lots of teachers there, and I went there on my gap year when I was 18. And well, I lived there for a while, and I came, one of the people who came to teach with Pauline Sasaki, and I didn't know anything about shiatsu, but she gave me a treatment. I think it was 2 years running, and this was a revelation to me. It really touched me in so many ways, and it was like a shock, really, to be touched like this in such a way that opened me up. And I thought, then I have to learn this. So when I was writing my PhD, I thought, well, this is an opportunity, staying at university for another 3 years, to train in shiatsu. So that's when I started training. And it wasn't quite what I was expecting. It wasn't really quite what I thought I was looking for. And I was actually on the verge of giving up when I got to, after about, it was the late 90s. And actually Frankie, who's here right in front of me, Francesca, may remember some of this. I've known her for a long time. And I was just hearing about this man Kishi, this crazy man, this kind of, there's something, don't go near Kishi, he's dangerous. So of course I wanted to meet Kishi immediately. So that sounded really exciting to me. And by what seemed like pure chance, a little while later, I was offered the opportunity to have a treatment with Kishi. And as soon as he sat down beside me and touched me, I thought, now I found the thing that I was looking for at the beginning. And it turned out, I found this only many years later, when I was writing a book with Kishi, that Pauline had been his girlfriend just before I'd met Pauline.
Oh.
I like to think there was some little spark there, some little connection.
Amazing. And for those that don't know Kishi, can you tell us a little bit about him?
Yeah, Kishi was, he had a family tradition of shiatsu, or touch therapy anyway. So he'd already learned a little bit from his father. And then he went to Namakoshi's while he was at university, so maybe there's a little tradition here, while he was studying landscape architecture at university in Tokyo, he also trained in shiatsu with Namakoshi. And the star teacher at that school was Masunaga, who I imagine if lots of shiatsu people here will know about Namakoshi and Masunaga. And Masunaga left Namakoshi school in 1967, and Kishi went with him. I mean, he stayed and finished his training, but he also, so now he was studying three things: landscape architecture, Namakoshi's shiatsu, and now he was at Masunaga's postgraduate school. And he became Masunaga's sort of star pupil, and he would travel with him and demonstrate for him while Masunaga talked. So they were really quite a close team for about 10 years, a little over 10 years. But Kishi became, he had something of a breakdown because he was very successful. He was he had sort of celebrity clients, and he was traveling the world, and he'd lived in Hawaii, he'd lived in Europe, and he was really kind of on the up, and a sort of sexy young guy, and he really was quite something. But something in him wasn't satisfied. It wasn't, he felt that he wasn't really growing in this work. He felt he'd reproduced the shiatsu of Namakoshi and Masunaga to the extent that it was possible for him to do. And there was something missing for him. There was some element of growth missing for him and his clients. He thought he didn't see fundamental change. And so, to cut a long story short, he just stopped shiatsu. In the middle of his, at the height of his career, he just stopped. And he had a bit of a breakdown, as he described it. And many, many things happened. But really, he had a very powerful revelation, a really powerful experience, and something completely changed for him. And he wasn't sure if he'd ever go back to shiatsu. But eventually people started calling him, and okay. And he found, though, that his touch, when he went to touch, this was different now. Something completely new had come. So, and this is Sei-ki. This is what he eventually called Sei-ki, or Sei-ki Soho. And so it's in the shiatsu tradition, but it grew out of his own research and commitment to shiatsu, this new way. And so I've worked with him. After I met him, I organized workshops for him. I worked, I did as much as I could with him. And in 2009, I suggested, we'd been, I don't know, trying to find something to do together, I suppose, in a way, but I suggested that we write a book together, and he said yes. So that was it.
It's a wonderful book, and I possess it, and I recommend that book to many, because not only it talks about Sei-ki and his journey, but also there's a lot of historical facts there and stories with all the teachers. So I really enjoyed that book. It was a well done book.
Thank you. It's a fantastic experience writing. It was a bit crazy making, I think, for all of us, but and also Kyoko, Kishi's wife, was key person in pushing him to do the work and to keep it all going.
And for those of us that haven't experienced the work, I mean, I met you. Well, I took your workshop in the Vienna Shiatsu Congress a few years ago. I was in the class. There were a few memorable things that I would like to touch upon. One of them, I remember the beginning of the class. You were in a state, maybe that's the best way to call it. And you were doing something very unique, and that was you just had your eyes closed, and from time to time you would just had your hand out, and you would just I don't know if you were scanning the room or What was it that you were doing? I was so curious. I've been waiting to ask you this for the last 3-4 years. What was she doing there?
I don't remember. I don't remember doing anything half as exciting and mysterious as that.
Oh, I remember that. But anyways, that's okay. We don't have to get into that if you don't remember. But the work itself, I mean, many of us who are so accustomed to touching and doing shiatsu sequences, and that this is completely different. And what I understood, diagnosis is not the point here, right?
That's right. That's
So,
right.
yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
So it was
Yeah,
very new to all of us and very mysterious to all of us, but also very exciting to watch. You know. So if you can
yeah.
explain some of the
Well,
principles and what is it that you were doing in the session?
yeah, I shall do my best. Yeah, Sei-ki, well, as you say, diagnosis is not the point. So we don't separate diagnosis and treatment. Actually, Masunaga talked the same way, but I could say so many things. I think our language, European languages, allow us to separate diagnosis and treatment. And so we think we can, but in fact, this is, I suggest, it's a problem for this kind of work, because in Sei-ki, we seek to recognize the condition of the person as a life situation, not as something wrong, but as an expression of life, in a way, expression of this particular life. And in that sense, it's not diagnostic, because it cannot be critical, and a diagnosis, I'm sure you're all saying, but diagnosis isn't critical, and I understand that. But there is something inherently critical about it, because you're saying, well, this isn't okay. I mean, you're not necessarily being critical in an unpleasant way, but you're saying, I'd like to be better. This isn't okay. But here we're recognizing this particular life situation, this distortion. And in recognizing it, in really recognizing and appreciating it, there's a space in which the person feels completely met. Well, completely, perhaps other people can comment on that, but met in a different way from usual, and not in a medical sense. And this gives the opportunity, really, the space for change to take place. So we don't connect the me doing something to you changing. So I'm a mirror to this particular life situation, this particular way it is for you.
And I mean, that's beautiful, to be a mirror to our patients. I think it's the ultimate, in a way, to put that mirror up. But the beauty is doing it with touch and with that intention. So what are the subtleties where you can, do you prep a patient before you do the work, or do you just do the work and bring that intention and that level of touch?
Yeah, that's a very common question for in workshops. People wonder if clients are confused or dissatisfied.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, of course, clients come with a back pain or stress or something. But what I find is that, well, and of course, I hear what they have to say. I ask them why they're here, and I honor that. But I don't go to work on that thing. I see what comes up, and I'm responsive to that. And I know lots of shiatsu people will recognize this, but it is a real discipline of responding to this moment. So there isn't a set routine, there isn't a structure. I don't follow a diagnosis with a treatment. I simply work to recognize what's going on. And what I find is that people are deeply satisfied. That now the condition often does change, very often does change. But the person often almost forgets why they came, or they come again without a problem as such. They start coming for a different reason. They start coming because they feel more themselves. They feel happier. Their lives start to shift. They may feel a little strange. So they very quickly seem to, without my prompting, which is marvelous because it's quite difficult to try and explain. And I've got a client I had, I haven't been seeing that many people with this lockdown, but there's a fairly regular client who knows a completely different world. She comes from a completely different world. And she's one of these who came with a problem, but now comes because she feels better, because she feels changed. And actually she's now started to even ask me about it, and think, talk about wanting to know more and to learn more about it. And so it doesn't seem to be a problem. And I think, well, there are people here who've been like Panayota, and Wolfgang, and who've been, and Maria, who've been doing Sei-ki, who've been learning Sei-ki. And I think people are starting to find the same thing as well. This deep satisfaction that people have from this kind of approach.
So it sounds like there's a permission and space of an unfolding.
Yeah.
That happens naturally.
Yeah. I mean, there's a limit to what we can do on our own. I think we do need help. I think all of us at some point need help. And this is really help to become more yourself. And it's a very equal feeling. You don't feel like you're being done, nobody's doing anything to you. And that's not to say that sometimes there isn't, a certain amount of pressure, or it's not just light touch necessarily, but it's still this very different feeling from a medical feeling.
And when shiatsu therapists or therapists that again are so used to treating in a certain way transition into learning Sei-ki, what is some of the obstacles, I don't know, for lack of a better word, that you see that are common in that transition?
Yeah, I always think I'm not necessarily the best person to ask. That there are a lot of better people who can to respond to that. But here's my experience and the experience of people who work with me. You see, when I met Kishi, I didn't have any doubt. I'd also done some quite powerful Zen session type work when I was 18 again, and for me, his touch had a truth about it. There was something absolutely fundamental about this, which was what I was looking for. And so it wasn't easy, but I just decided to throw shiatsu out of the window, and I was going to do this. And it was, I'm sure, a mess and chaotic, but this is what I was just determined. But I've hardly met anybody for whom that's been the case, including most of Kishi's students. Many thousands of people work with Kishi, but very few people would ever say, even now, that they did Sei-ki. That's changing. But I think people do find what they see as a lack of structure. So two things: a perceived lack of structure and an anxiety about what clients will think seem to be quite key. So I would address the lack of structure by saying, actually, it's much more, it's extremely structured. I was going to say more structured than shiatsu. I think it is in some ways, because it's not an external structure. It's an internal structure. It requires a very strong internal discipline. So in fact, once you kind of get that, once you know what you are following, then the structure might be difficult, but it is there. So that's probably people might find that a bit tricky, but it is there. As for clients, I think some people have found, if they're shiatsu practitioners and they've started to do Sei-ki, some clients have been a bit, I'm not sure about this, and some people will offer them Sei-ki or shiatsu. So I think for me that's a lot to do with the practitioner's courage, and but I think that's fair enough. So a lot of people will transition quite slowly towards Sei-ki. And I think it just starts to embed itself in their touch and their lives. And from what I'm seeing, people are just gradually, Sei-ki's just becoming what they do. I mean, increasingly it seems to me, talking to people, that it's less of a problem as more people are doing it. So I don't know quite why, and perhaps we can ask some of the people here might be better answering that.
Sure.
But yeah, I think the thing is, you have to be willing to lose a few clients, and that's the truth. And I'm not sure if I did. I might have done. I'm not particularly aware of anybody who left because I suddenly started doing something. I'm not even sure anyone really noticed. So I think it's more our anxiety than theirs.
Got it. And why do you believe that Sei-ki is so relevant to today? Why would patients seek Sei-ki?
Yeah. Well, for me, there's no other possibility, because, well, I think that, you know, there's a lot to be said for the medical model. You know, diagnosis, treatment. You know, we know if we've got broken leg or coronavirus, we probably want someone who's going to work with that model. But there's a whole other way of being out there. I'm not even trying to do that. And so I think this time, especially with all the mindfulness, maybe that's slightly going out of fashion now. I don't hear it as much anymore, but there's been a huge change with the sort of mindfulness and everything. And this is really also where Sei-ki is coming from. This is a different way of approaching life. It's a different way of being in life. And I just think there's more interest than there used to be. There's more openness to it. So it's always been here, this way, whether it's Sei-ki or just a desire for truth. And it's been here for as long as we've been here, you know, people have been on the earth. And this is a particularly powerful approach to it, because it's with two people. Now, you can meditate on your own, and you know, you can have a lot of experience and really sort yourself out to some extent doing that. But in the end, you do need to work with other people to really deal with your case, your heavy case. And Sei-ki is a way of doing both things. It's showing you yourself, both for the client and the practitioner. And I don't know if its moment has come. I'd like to think it has. And I certainly see a real thirst for this realness, this coming away from ideas and wanting to touch the real and just be in life. So I think it's always relevant, but yeah, maybe more so now, maybe more interest now.
I've noticed that you made a reference to the truth, and it sounds like it's been a theme in your life, and maybe that's what brought you to Sei-ki. Maybe you can talk to us a little bit about, you know, what is the truth for you, anyways.
Oh gosh. Well, gosh, tricky, difficult one, that. Well, I think it goes back to those experiences I had when I was 18, 19, really powerful experiences. I don't know what else to call them, truth, of reality. And that that is what I was looking for in Shiatsu, and that's what I found in Kishi's approach. And it's something about space and openness, and a door that opens to everything, to every possibility. And it's maybe it's strange that it could be in someone's touch, but it's in someone's presence. And when you're in the presence of somebody with that space in them, things can shift and change. And that's once you've also, and I'm sure there are people here who recognize what I'm saying here. Once you experience that, there's nothing else quite like it. You don't want, I mean, yeah, you want all sorts of other things, but really the important thing is this truth, this essential something else, which we know we can't really put into words. And so I just want to pursue that. And for me, you know, I do other things. I do other work which also touches on this, that came out of that original meditation that I did. But Sei-ki is my experience of it is profound work. It can be it's not about health. You know, I've seen people, and including myself, get up from sessions with Kishi, changed and deeply, fundamentally changed in outlook. So this touches on something this space, if you're open to it, or sometimes just by chance, this space can open, and there you are, and life can shift. And in the end, that's all I'm interested in.
Well, thank you if I put you on, first of all, thank you. And I'm sorry if I put you on a spot. It's a difficult one to really dive into and explain in words, I understand. But I was really curious about your truth. Yeah. And I know that you also studied and offer a modality called, you bring language also into your therapeutic relationships with people, and it's a clear, is it a clear language or?
No, I use, I work with, sometimes with Nick Pohl, who uses clean language. So we do sometimes cross over a bit there, but no, I work with clearing. It's called clearing, and it came out of the work of someone called Charles Berner in the California in the 60s and 70s. And I've known that work again as long as I've known Shiatsu. So 85 or so, I came across that.
And you wrote a book about it too.
I did, mind clearing. Yeah, so I worked with that. For me, the Sei-ki and the clearing are very similar feel. But one I'm using touch, one I'm using language, but in the end they're the same, but I do keep them separate. In fact, I don't know why. It'd be quite nice if they merge, but it seems to me we're working at different levels of the human, so it makes sense to me for the moment to keep that they're separate practices, but increasingly people are finding that the same resonance in them. And I've got some people doing the clearing training and the Sei-ki training, and really finding the combination of the training very complementary, very, very useful.
Beautiful. And I worked with a practitioner in my clinic who had that training, and we would often work together with patients too. So I've seen the process of clearing. I loved it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Surrender. I mean, everybody that comes to us as therapists, what they really are looking for is autonomy, freedom, and surrender. Right? How do I surrender, Mihael? How do I give this up? How do I let it go? I mean, we hear that quite often in our daily practice with our patients. And I'm really curious about your surrender work. So maybe we can talk about that.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever had a client actually ask about that. That's interesting. I should ask you about that. I mean, how do I, interesting. Well, surrender work is my, latest project, if you like. It's a long time coming. And I'm doing this with René Fix in Key College well, he's in Leipzig, in fact, Key College in Heidelberg as well. And it really comes out of Sei-ki and clearing, because at the heart of both of them is this surrender practice. In Sei-ki, we do something called Katsugen, which actually comes out of Seitai, but fundamentally it comes out of Shinto and to some extent Buddhism. It's a very Japanese practice, and it's a movement, it's a regeneration movement. It's literally giving up your mind body to flow, to let change happen. So it's a surrender practice. And I also came across it through Berna's work in clearing and surrender meditation. And you can find surrender work, I think, in any religion, often hidden away. In some religions, there's the Holy Spirit, Christianity. You can find shaking medicine in all sorts of places. And every religion has this desire for direct union with the divine. And in Katsugen, and it's been really, we don't talk about it in those terms, but it is a fabulous practice partly for just your own well-being and just letting go of stuff. But it also comes into Sei-ki work. It's in Sei-ki touch, this openness, this spontaneity, this whatever is now feeling, this openness to now. So René and I have wondered for a long time, you know, Sei-ki is such a small number of people who are really so interested in touch work, even though we might think that it would be great if the world engaged more. We know it would be good for them. But, you know, we're thinking, how do we get more people interested? And on workshops, what we find is that people love the Katsugen, they love the surrender. Kishi did it. It was always part of Sei-ki. It's always been part of clearing for those who were interested. And we thought, well, let's do a bit more of that then. And during this lockdown, I suppose we'd had the idea before, but it was a motivation to do some of this online with people. And we started doing this, and to our surprise, it kind of worked. And so we during a break in lockdowns, I went to Leipzig and we recorded an 8-week course, and we loved it. And we thought, you know, somehow there's something really, really right about this, and people are loving it because it is really not doing. I mean, we talk a lot about not doing, but it's impossible to conceptualize because all our concepts are about doing. And this is a practice that's genuinely not doing. And it's such a relief to put it down, put down our willpower and just let go, let our minds and bodies go on holiday for while we practice. So we're just launching this website. We've just launched it, and Sei-ki is part of it, clearing is part of it, and surrender work is the thing that brings them together.
Beautiful. And is that a process where you bring awareness and you allow a natural flow of involuntary movements to happen? I just want to be clear what it looks like. Yeah.
We use the Katsugen exercises, which are just some preparatory exercises to, I think it's partly just framing it. You don't have to use them, but we like them. And then you set up a space and a time usually. I mean, there's a lot more to it than that, and I could go on for hours about surrender practice. And then you have this time where you simply allow whatever will happen to happen. And sometimes that's absolutely nothing. Sometimes people fall asleep, and sometimes people experience spontaneous movement. I think eventually people I think I would say eventually everybody experiences some involuntary movement as your mind body just it's almost like pulling a rubber band tight and then snapping it back, and it goes back to its shape. Or letting go. So it's like you if you just let go of your idea of control, your mind body just kind of goes there. It goes back to the shape it wants to be and thanks you for it.
Wow.
So it's that simple, but so difficult to actually let go your idea of control. It's like you think, oh, I'll let it all go, and then you sit there thinking, go on then, surrender, fighting. So it's a great practice.
Yes, I mean, we sometimes get to sit on our mat, where movements occur involuntarily, and often patients can be quite spooked by it, or scared, or as the mind is trying to come in and be in the way, right? So I understand why you're saying so many people really are looking for this without even knowing, and it's so necessary.
Yeah,
So,
a lot of clients experience this. It's interesting that you say that. Yeah, in Sei-ki treatments, this is very common. So yeah, people are often very familiar, and it's nothing weird about it. It's actually very normal.
I mean, I work with a lot of patients that have been traumatized in many ways, and there are certain modalities out there that encourage those movements in the trauma world, trauma release exercises and so on. And you're saying that this has been around though for quite a while in Katsugo, how do you pronounce that?
Katsugen.
And it's from Japan originally.
Well, it's part of, it's called Reido in Shinto. Reido, which translates roughly as shaking.
And I know you're correct. There's a lot of shaking in Hindu traditions and in Buddhist traditions, and certain in the Sufi world also. Yeah, it's been around for millennia, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And I know that you have an upcoming workshop around surrender. Can you share with the group when it's on?
We have we have two things that are up at the moment on our that people can do. There's just a little free taster mini workshop which anyone's welcome to just click on and have a look at and try it out. And then we've got our 8-week really going for it surrender practice challenge. It's called the Surrender Project. It's actually it's not as scary as that sounds. So that takes you through 8 weeks of practice with little talks and videos. And we piloted it. We had a group, in fact, some people are here, at the end of last year, and Renee and I joined, and it was great. We loved it anyway. I think it was really good. We do Sei-ki workshops as well, where we do a lot of this surrender work, and that's live. And the next one will be we hope, lockdown permitting, will be in May in Germany. That'll be a residential. And we just keep going, and we'll be putting more work up there. We do a partnered surrender. I think that might be our next online project. We have a Wednesday practice group, which we're very much enjoying. So anyone's welcome. It's free, and if people want to come and practice, that's also on the website, and they can just join up, come along. And it's been a surprise, but a very pleasant surprise, to find that although we're all in our little rooms all over the world, it's kind of works really nicely to do it together in this way. So we do that every week, and
It's amazing. Amazing that you are able to do it with Zoom these days. I just took a group also through an online class, and I was so nervous because I usually do that work in person, but it works. Yeah, it really works.
Yeah. It's good.
Good. I want to open the floor for some questions from our guests here. So if anybody has any questions for Alice, uh, just raise your hand and let me know. Anybody that maybe also took some training and want to share some of your experiences, that'll be great too. Everybody's so shy here. There you go, Angela.
Hi, nice to see you, Alice. And
Hello.
yes, hello. I've been with training on and off with Kishi for years, since 1990, 91, and somewhere around there. But you know, when you were talking about the integration, you know, of Shiatsu, Sei-ki, and about the clients not really understanding what was going on, because I also dropped a lot of the Shiatsu and was purely doing Sei-ki, and the results were amazing. And you know, working with Kishi and his touch and how transforming things became as you worked with him. And it was quite sad that he passed. And I'm here in Canada, so I missed the last part. When you came to Canada, I think I was having children, or one of my parents were dying or something. Anyway, it's nice to see that it keeps going, and I really feel the essence, Shiatsu being, Sei-ki being the essence, as I mentioned to Kishi before he passed, before he died, you know, that there's the Shiatsu, but the actual contact of Sei-ki and knowing where to go within the body. You know, Shiatsu is also a tool per se, you know, but the Sei-ki really gets in there and helps unwind and gives the body that space to heal, right? Mm-hmm. So there's so many dimensions to it, and it's a wonderful practice. And thank you for keeping it, you know, in the light for everyone.
Thanks, Andrew. It's really nice to see you.
Yeah. Sorry. Thank you, Angela. Anybody else would like to ask a question or share with Peter? Go ahead.
Hi everyone. Yeah, I mean, I did a 3-year Shiatsu course in Bristol, and I did a few workshops with Kishi, and I kind of got a bit lost in the whole, because all the Asian countries seem to have a different tradition around energy work, and I couldn't like reconcile how they fit together. I sort of found Sei-ki was the way to abandon all the maps and just go with a more spontaneous thing. So I love that about it. But you said, Alice, in your talk about it's more about an internal structure than an external structure. So is there something as a practitioner that we have to do to get that internal structure in place, like a practice of some kind, before we can start practicing Sei-ki properly? Or that's the part I never understood about it, you know, like, what would you say to that? Or is it something you develop through practicing?
It's a really good question. Okay, I'll give it a shot. I don't think there is I could give different answers to this. No, I think the practice is the practice. The practice is the way to find this. So you have this basic questioning. I'm the way I'm teaching it, increasingly. Teaching is a dirty word in Sei-ki, but the way I'm showing it and suggesting people try this is to use something like a koan. So you really saying, what is this? What is this with this person? What is this feeling? What is this? So and you remain open to what comes. So in a way, these three things. You want to know this life situation. You are open to the reality, the truth of this life situation, and you are asking, what is this, as a sort of way of framing that. And that is a powerful discipline, and it develops your awareness. Your awareness needs to expand, but anybody can do it. You see, just this human contact with this simple intention to be open and to receive is extremely powerful. Without comment, and so anybody can start doing this. You don't have to be anything except human to do this from the beginning, and that's crucial. You can get your awareness gradually expands and becomes quieter, but what you're doing at the beginning and at the end is the same thing. It's just your awareness is bigger. It's like the pond has got bigger. Now, whether you need any prep before, well, no, because that is the practice. But I do think other things can help. Yeah, but that's a whole other topic.
Thank you, Peter. That's a great question. Yeah, and I remember seeing also you talking about different touch points.
Checking points.
Sorry?
Checking points, do you
Checking
mean?
points, yes.
Yes, that's right. You can, I mean, there's a lot more to it, of course, and a lot less to it. There's both more and less to all of this. In a way, you know, you start adding little bits of structure to help you develop, but you also have to keep throwing away that structure as it gets in the way. But yes, we have checking points, places to go. So especially when you're beginning, you're not sure where to touch, you don't see anything, you may not feel much. So we have places that say, okay, we'll go here and ask this, what is this? Do you feel any movement? What do you feel here? So yes, there are some basic checking points to help learning, really, and literally to check in.
Got it. Thank you. We have a few more questions from Paniota. Please go ahead. And then we'll go to Nathan.
I would like to say that Alice, every time I hear you telling about Kishi and how he developed Sei-ki, I am always touched, deeply touched actually, because he trusted his himself. He trusted what he was feeling, that he was looking for something else, and he dared to face it, and out of it he Sei-ki was developed. And when you said that, I hear you saying that it needs courage for a Shiatsu practitioner or somebody else to do Sei-ki. I feel that courage and eventually a confidence is built, and this confidence comes with the internal structure that you are saying. And as far as my internal structure, although in 2011 I had met Kishi and I had felt that this is what I want to do, in 2016 I went and found Alice. But in between I had started Zazen meditation, and this had a tremendous impact on my internal discipline, to be present and how to connect with the other. I think that this was the key for me for internal structure that after helped me very much in practicing Sei-ki. And thank you, Alice, very much.
Thank you, Paniota.
Thank you. I see that Nathan Torrance has a question too. Nathan, if you're there. There you go.
Hi. Well, I wanted to just also say what Panayota just said about if you follow with courage, then eventually you develop confidence. I thought that was so wonderful. But my question was, you know, building off what Peter's question, which I really appreciated, because I've also been wondering, you know, thinking about this for a long time, like what is the structure? What is the internal structure that's followed? And I just kind of wanted to run this by you, Alice, and you can tell me if I'm like maybe on the right track. And you know, I also I recognize that maybe it's not the best thing to try and pin it down, but I'll put it out there anyway. It sounded like from what you were saying that the structure, the discipline, is keeping yourself open and sort of non-judgmental. The structure is sort of like maintaining a certain mindset and then letting your actions follow from that.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good summary in a way. Yeah, staying open is absolutely crucial. This is the problem with diagnosis. It closes things down, and you think you know something, and when you think you know something, you're always wrong. So it's like keeping okay, this diagnosis arises, let's put it aside. I'm staying open to how it is, and layers. And sometimes then something completely new comes in. Yes, so it is very much about staying open. I've forgotten the other thing you just said. Staying open and...
Actually, there was something that I forgot to say that just popped up, which was staying open and, I said non-judgmental, but also the sort of attention that's necessary, which is like at the same time, like laser focused, but also really open.
Yeah, it's not your thinking mind. You see that you've got to give priority to another part of you that knows something, and this is really the training, and this is what Sei-ki also trains you in. It's learning to trust that other knowledge, other way of knowing, other way of seeing.
Yeah.
And then you just you don't just follow. I mean, it becomes easier, but I think to begin with, of course, it's quite a challenge. But the thing that keeps you going is that the satisfaction that comes, and often enough to keep you going. It's like, it's cruel. It's like the carrot just pops up occasionally. You have this moment to begin with. You know, maybe it takes a year for that moment to arrive, something again, but it's so powerful that you keep going.
When you said just follow it there, it just reminded me of how you hear a quote from Kishi every once in a while where he said just touch, and that it sounds like not a big deal, but it's again like the words sort of fail us, you know. It's like just touching, but that's all, meaning like that's all you're doing, and all of you is doing that. And I was looking at some pictures of my niece recently, and there was one where she was maybe, I don't know, 3 or 4 months old, like just sort of at the age where she could like visually identify things. And it's a picture of her laying next to her dad, my brother-in-law, and their faces are right up against each other's. And she's staring at his chin and the stubble on his chin, and has her hand on her chin. And it was like, she was so like just amazed by what she was seeing, and like in this state of wonder. And it kind of made me think about Sei-ki.
Lovely, thank you.
Beautiful metaphor. Thanks, Nathan. Any other people that would like to comment or ask questions? Just raise your hand. Go ahead, Polly. Just unmute yourself, Polly. There you go.
Hi, Alice. It's good to see you. I've been listening just now connected in. I have a question regarding how you perceive the difference, or if it's just incorporated in a different way. When you are simply being spontaneously in the moment and asking the question, what is this? What is this life situation? What is this person? How is that different from, or does it encompass some of the way we might approach diagnosis in Shiatsu in terms of visually observing, or tactily with the touch, observing and feeling, or energetically feeling? And is the big difference that there's just no comment, that all you do is the discipline is to stay in the moment, to be with whatever arises without any comment or without any thinking mind, thinking one has to do something with it other than to witness and hold it? I don't know. It's so hard to put this stuff in language, but do you, I guess I'm really wondering about all the time we spend developing these ideas of diagnosis and shiatsu. And if we just sort of let all those go, is it truly just a discipline of being in the moment and just observing what arises and being with what arises and allowing whatever happens internally in them or externally because of our witnessing, just let it happen?
Gosh, there's quite a few questions in there. I think you answered your first one about shiatsu. I mean, it's a long time since I trained in shiatsu, so I hesitate to comment. But certainly a diagnosis arises, but you let it go. But you don't just observe. This is not just a witnessing. I'm not sure that you were quite suggesting that, but it's been said before, well, is it witnessing? Is that what it is? But no, it's not. It's more engaged than that. So you're moving with, you're absolutely with rather than observing. There's no disengagement. You're not, there have to be two people, but you're absolutely together, moving with. And so this is an observational ability. It's an active thing rather than just a receiving or witnessing act. It's an act. Yeah.
Would it be akin to how one experiences themselves in Katsugen with another person?
It can be. It's the movement from partner to Katsugen to Sei-ki. They are different. They are different. In partner Katsugen, you are more of a witness, definitely, but and more holding the space for this person to unfold. This Sei-ki is different. Sei-ki, because you're so with the person, there is something different going on. You're not guiding, but there is withness in a way which is different from the partner Katsugen, but they are very closely related, and you can move from one into the other.
Thank you.
Great questions, Polly. Thank you for that. Anybody else would like to add or ask a question? Just got time for one more. Oh, Polly again? Yeah, go ahead.
Will you be posting the information on your upcoming, Mihael, will you be posting information on her workshop?
Absolutely, okay. Yeah. It'll be on our Facebook group, and we'll post that.
Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, Angela.
Do you still keep in touch with Kyoko when she's able to come over? Do you work with her or keep together with her or in contact or whatever?
Not lately. We did for a while, but no, we kind of just do our own thing, really. So, yeah. So it seems to work quite well like that.
Well, thank you, everyone, and thank you, Alice, for taking us on a Sei-ki journey this past hour and talking about surrender and all your wonderful work. It's exciting, and I agree. A lot of people could use this work, and they're probably searching for it as we speak, not knowing that something like this is available. So keep up the good work, and we'll spread the message all over the community.
Thank you very much. It's been lovely. It's been a real pleasure.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us. It's been a blast. Look forward to next week. Every Friday, we'll have someone on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.